Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Elise, and I'm an astrologer in Toronto, Canada. And this is a video going out to my newsletter community. It is being recorded on September 29th, 2021. So, guys, we are in our Libra season, and I'm going to be doing a Libra archetypal reel class this coming Sunday. So I have to send out notification of that, and I thought I would create this video to kind of go along with that class to kind of support it and lead up to it. So we're going to do a little bit of conversation today about Libra and about how that archetype feels to me. Okay, I'm going to share a little bit of a personal take on on the way that the Libra works in us, or what's been invoked in this archetype for me for the last few years, how I've been working with it. Okay, so Libra is a bridging archetype. It understands reality in terms of its relationship to what is outside of it. So it has this wonderful capacity to feel the polarities between itself and the other. Classically, we call Libra the relationship archetype because it rules the seventh house of the birth chart, which is traditionally known as the house of marriage and partnership. It's not necessarily the house of deep soul union. That would be the eighth house. The seventh house is where we go to create a contract or to create an agreement or a negotiation between two people, where we set the parameters or the rules or the organizational etiquette, so to speak, between ourselves and the other. Now, relationships, Saturn is in Libra is exalted. So it is our greatest test in life to get relationships right, isn't it? And they are a challenge for many of us, particularly the Pluto in Libra generation, which I'm a part of, as we are here to transform relationship dynamics in a very deep psychological, spiritual way. So that's why I thought I would come and share some of my experiences working with Libra, because as part of the Pluto in Libra generation, I feel as though I have a special entry point to the alchemy of this archetype. Okay. And I would like to explain a little bit of how that has kind of been arising in my more esoteric moments. I know some of you enjoy it when I get a little esoteric on you, so we'll go there. All right, here is what I want to talk about. So relationships are absolutely hard. What makes them hard? What makes a Libran relationship difficult? Well, what makes it so difficult is that in this dynamic of negotiation between me and you, or you and me, there is a give and take, right? It's never all me or all you. It's a little bit of me and a little bit of you, and then I have to listen to you, and then you have to listen to me, and then there's this weighing of the opposites, right? And there's the scales of justice that hopefully come out to a balance point at some place and time. But getting to that balance point is excruciating, because what many of us do, especially when we're quote unquote codependent types, is we will well, in fact, I think all of us do this. Okay, I think this is just how we are evolving through the relationship dynamic. So let's just put it out. It's not just people who are codependent, it's all of us. We perceive within ourselves some kind of a lack. Okay, we perceive that there's some kind of a vacancy or some kind of an opportunity or some kind of a longing or some kind of a hole. And then we look outside of ourselves to another to fill that. And when we reach out across and we find someone attractive, what is it that we find attractive in the other? Well, what we find attractive in the other is what we feel we are ourselves lacking. So the other becomes this mirror reflection for us so that we can see that inside ourselves, which we have believed we are missing. The other becomes the perfect reflection back so that we can see ourselves and come into wholeness. Now, I had this whole thing downloaded to me in a dream in a teaching. Sorry, it wasn't necessarily a normal dream, because sometimes I have an elevated dream, right? We kind of have this elevated dream capacity where we can receive information and guidance in our dream state. Some of you may understand what I'm talking about, and some of you may absolutely have no idea. This is just a way that my structure works and how spirit works with me. Sometimes they'll give me a download, okay? So the download that I was given, I think it probably was 2019, was all around this principle, okay? This principle of how we grow as independent souls on our journey through the art of attraction and repulsion. And what I was told is that every single one of us comes in whole. We come in exactly as we want to be. And the only thing we ever actually want is to be whole within is to be 100% who we are. That's our journey. That's the journey of enlightenment, is to come into whole self-awareness, like completion of who we are. And in that process, though, in the process of growth, in the process of evolution, in the process of incarnation, as I said before, we have these quote unquote blind spots, right? Where we're not able to see ourselves. Either we're not able to see the dark side of us, the shadow side, like the part of us that's mean, or the part of us that's spiteful, or the part of us that's jealous. We can't see that. Or we often can't see the good part, the part of us that's masterful, the part of us that is in control, the part of us that is creative, the part of us that is passionate, right? We have these inconsistencies or incongruencies. And as long as there is any part of us that we can't see, there is a deep longing or a loneliness within that just drives us toward somehow finding the reconciliation of that part, or finding that part in us. It's like a compulsive, unconscious quest that we're on for wholeness. And so our energy body will like reach out and find resonance or find attraction, or it will literally pull in energy externally through relationships that is vibrating at the same frequency as that part of us that we're not seeing yet. Okay, be it the shadow or the light. It can be both. Excuse me for a second. I get a little drippy in the autumn time. So when we pull in this kind of relationship, this would be kind of, I guess we could give it a name. We could call this a karmic relationship, because the purpose of the relationship at a primary level is to find what we are outside of us, then somehow project ourselves onto it. And in the process of that projection, there will come a moment or come a time when the relationship will fail, or our projection, our codependency on that person to fulfill that part of us that we feel we're lacking will end, because that's not a sustainable way to have a relationship, right? It's a misappropriation of power. We give our power away to another when we perceive that they have something we lack, and then we hold on, or we attach, or we try to control them. And inevitably that's going to fall apart. When it falls apart, what happens is we are thrust back in upon ourselves, where we have to come to terms with that which we thought we weren't, but perhaps we are, right? This is where we start to see things like, I blame my ex-husband for always being X, Y, and Z, but maybe if I looked inside, I would realize that I am X, Y, and Z as well, and that I can accept that in myself, come into completion. And then when he behaves in those aberrant ways, they no longer impact me, right? Because I've kind of understood them in myself, taken responsibility for them. So the stickiness is no longer there, right? The codependency is broken. So if we see that relationships on this kind of mundane level are often here to teach us lessons, they're teaching us what? They're teaching us how to be whole. They're teaching us how to look inside and how to be more of who we are, rather than expect another to fulfill this part of us that we are empty in, you know? So what I was kind of taught is that this is a way that we use each other and the dynamics of reflection and the dynamics of relationship to evolve. Now, great. So are we all doomed to like constantly attracting and karmic relationships where we have all of these intense lessons. No, I don't think we are that simplistic. I think love is real, commitment is real, value is real, and relationships are real. And we can have absolutely beautiful relationships, right? Particularly when we wake up inside the dream and stop projecting on each other all of our unmet needs or our inconsistencies or our incongruencies or our shadows or our hopes and things like that. So now I want to, so on kind of like this higher esoteric level, I feel like relationships play this complicated evolutionary role for us until there is such a point when we accept what we are. And when we accept ourselves completely and kind of stabilize and ground into who we actually are, then perhaps, and I don't know because I haven't achieved this yet, perhaps we are able to vibrate at a level where we can attract another person who is equally as whole and who we can have a relationship with of real equality, okay? A real equal relationship where we are two wholes, not two halves making a whole, but two wholes celebrating each other's successes, celebrating each other's paths, celebrating each other's individuality, and celebrating each other's beauty, right? Not because it is my own, but because it is yours. And there's this quality in Libra at that point where the scales balance out. We're no longer exchanging materials and going back and forth trying to find who we are within it. We're actually stable and grounded. And I love my mentor Deborah Silverman's way of describing this passage for Libra from extending too much on the outside, like looking too much on the outside to get all her needs met, trying to control everything outside of her, holding on, needing, whatever it might be, manipulating, whatever it might be, sacrificing herself for the other. That state versus the state where one can be a whole soul, a whole self, coming into conscious relationship with another. And the way Deb describes it, she says, take a look at the Libra glyph. The Libra glyph is two equal lines. It looks like an equal sign, right? But on the top of equal sign, there's a little bump that goes bloop right in the middle. So it's like the bottom line is straight and the top line has this little bump on the top, in the middle of the top line. And that bump represents the relationship with ourself. Okay, that in order, and also our relationship with God, or our relationship with our higher quality or higher nature, our relationship with our vertical alignment. Okay, and this is the interesting part of Libra, is that it is all about the horizontal, right? It's about the understanding the horizontal dynamics, understanding me and you as we express on this horizontal plane of energetic exchange, but it will never come into harmony, true harmony, until that vertical part of us is strong. So at that point, relationships become a dance of beauty and of connection and of celebration and of sharing. Until that point, relationships can be experienced as more of a push and pull and a kind of a trying to find your ground or trying to find the stability that you're looking for. So as always in the evolution of our consciousness, I think the answers are always about personal integrity, coming into deeper relationship with ourselves, creating that vertical line and making it important. And perhaps so much so in Libra, right? In Libra, there is another opportunity to learn that lesson through a different lens or through a different archetypal dance or through a different archetypal fabric. It's generally the same lesson, just repeated in different ways. But in Libra, it just seems to be something that is so universal and so human. Like there is not a single one of us that doesn't engage in relationship all the time and that isn't always challenged by them, right? So how do you meet the challenge? Like what do we do? And I'm certainly no expert in this. I've been, single for 4 years, and I have not been able to find a deep soulmate connection with someone that felt like it was my relationship, right? I'm definitely on that trajectory, but there's a lot of work that needs to happen before that can be achieved. And this is sort of what's come to me through my own growth and through my own path. And one of the things that landed for me very strongly in 2019 as well was this principle of understanding the inner relationship between our masculine and our feminine. And I remember this one night I was lying in bed, and I woke up probably at around 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'm lying on my back, and I came up out of the dream state and I was awake, and all of a sudden I was just really aware that there were these two bodies. Literally, I could feel them and I could see them, but they weren't like, I couldn't see them physically. I could see them energetically, and I could feel their shapes energetically. And one was lying on my left side and one was lying on my right side. Okay. So it was almost like I had two beings, one on my left and one on my right, lying just or hovering just above my body. So I did not freak out at this. This was not strange to me. Strange things sometimes happen to me. So I was just like, okay, interesting. What is this? And I started to kind of inquire as to what these things were and what they represented and what they were there for and what they were giving me. And what I was very quickly made aware of was that this one on my left was my feminine and the one on my right was my masculine. And this feminine part of me started to tell me about herself. She started to give me information about what she was like. She started to kind of give me insight about how she felt, what she wanted, what her temperament was, what her body shape was, what her nature was. Okay. Same thing with the masculine on the right. He started to communicate to me energetically about what his essence was, what his essential properties were, what he wanted, how he acted, why, what his responsibility was. And I was shown, they sort of show me, tell me kind of simultaneously through an intuitive kind of hit, that the masculine in me had been protecting the feminine for a very, very long time because she was wounded. And I was shown this complex interrelationship that had started down at the root as the masculine came across and tried to hold on to this weakened feminine, but in doing so had further supported her weakness. And so there was this brokenness at the root of my feminine and masculine energetic entry points, right? And this break or this energetic distortion, so to speak, or a misappropriation of power, I was given information about how this is a systemic issue that many, many, many of us, if not all of us in the human species, have embedded in our structure, embedded in our collective field. Because there has been a misappropriation of power between the masculine and feminine on this planet since the time of the changeover between the goddess matriarchal cultures to the patriarchal god cultures, which happened, way back in 1000 to 2000 BCE, I believe it started. And then, we kind of crossed that divide around the time of Socrates and the time of Christ. And it's just been kind of traveling that way ever since. And no one can deny here that the masculine has been in charge, right? The masculine has felt it needed to be the one who was in control, who had all of the power, so to speak, because the feminine was weak. And this is the narrative that we've seen play out in major religions. It's the narrative that we've seen play out in our cultures as well. Must protect the weak and feminine, right? She is the reason why we've fallen. She must be protected and held back. She must be cloistered or covenant. What am I trying to say? She is not allowed to express herself in her pure, powerful way, because that power is dangerous, or, we have to subjugate it, we have to hold it, we have to protect it, or we have to stop it, right? And I don't need to tell you all of the examples of how this is played out on our planet for thousands of years. But we're at this point of time where we're rewiring this. Like it really is falling apart. Like we're rebalancing this inner masculine and inner feminine within our civilization, within our cultures, within our zeitgeist, within ourselves, our individual selves, all of it. And I guess when I started to kind of track that and understand it in myself, I started to heal it. And I started to kind of put a lot of my effort on finding what it would be like if this pattern or this aberration loosened. And I've done an enormous amount of trauma work on that pattern, an enormous amount of body work, energy work, and like tracking work, and a lot like just like I take these things very, very seriously when they're given to me. I do not ignore them. And it like generally, if I receive something like that, it's like, this is the next chapter of your life, right? It's like, this is the thing that you will now work with. And so it's been about 2 years that I've been doing intense work on that. And I feel like I'm actually coming to the other side of it now. I can feel the balancing. I can feel the balancing of the masculine and feminine inside my body. And I am not afraid of one or the other. And I'm really learning how to stabilize that and ground it. So this is the dance of Libra as seen from within versus without, right? When we realize that we can find a marriage external, which is beautiful, we can also find that same marriage internal, right? Which is equally, if not more important to find. So that when we do try to find a partner or try to engage with another, we will be able to attract to us someone who is resonating or someone who is vibrating, quote unquote, at that same level of wholeness as we. Inner work is never wasted. The more we can be ourselves entirely, the more we will attract a person who is able to meet us. Because until the work is done, there will always be this balance, counterbalance, back and forth dynamic that happens. And again, I am no expert in relationships. I am looking forward to the day when I can test these theories out for real. But we're getting there, right? We're getting there. In any case, Libra season is all about this. It's all about understanding these dynamics, exploring these dynamics, and kind of awakening our sensitivity to the dynamics in the relationships that we engage in on a day-to-day basis. And perhaps even more importantly, the relationship that we have with ourselves, with our own masculine and feminine. Where are we giving our power away to someone outside of us? Where do we hoard it and not share, right? These are all questions that we can ask. And we can say, why? Like, why do I protect myself? Am I really wanting a relationship? Why or why not? What am I open for? And what am I closed for? And why not? When I do engage in relationship, how does that interplay go? Do I sacrifice myself for the other, or making them more important and then acquiesce to their reality, thus giving myself away and finding myself empty? Or do I take up more space than I should and demand their attention and demand that they acquiesce to me and that I am or can I achieve a state of harmony and balance and flow where we're both whole beings integrating with each other and sharing on that equal basis? So these are some of the questions that you can be asking during this month as the Libra sun travels this archetype. It becomes alive for us, right? And you may start to feel it. In any case, I also wanted to tell you guys that we are in a Mercury retrograde, which began on September 28th and will go until approximately October 19th, although the shadow period of that will end on November the 3rd. So, and the Mercury retrograde is in, guess what? Libra. So this is the perfect time for us to be doing all of this thinking about relationship and the energetic dynamics and how they have impacted us in the past and how we want them to be in the future. All of this stuff. Well, mostly the past, right? A Mercury retrograde will pull the mercurial information and pull the mercurial consciousness, the mental awareness or the mindset or the mind, a witnessing capacity of us, our consciousness, our conscious awareness. It pulls it internal, okay? It asks us to look inside. We're doing some inner work now for the next month or so. until October 19th, and then we'll be integrating that until about November 3rd. So don't be afraid to do some journaling work this month. Don't be afraid to do some questioning. Don't be afraid to just confront yourself, right? And see what's really going on and be very honest. There's only benefit for all of us when we do that. So I'm going to leave you there. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Talk to you soon.